Hour 2 Overdrive continues, powered by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Bryan Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles McLennan, and Mike Johnson.
Hey.
Yes. How are we doing, Johnny?
I see my accusers face to face. Do you remember the last time we had a conversation?
Absolutely.
What happened?
Wow, you said the Leafs would get swept in the first round.
I'm not sure if that was the nature of the conversation. Something about stats nerds.
That was you.
That was
You're a goalie attacker.
This side of the table. This guy is okay.
Yes.
He's over here for a
Noodles is
reason.
friends with everybody. I have issues with goaltenders. You have issues with analytics and stats.
I don't.
That's factual. Just own it. And I don't know how you picked up on some shrapnel, Johnny.
Yeah,
But
I took a couple strays.
good to see you.
I
man.
have weird issues with like random things. I don't know what it is. Like traffic. I was pissed
Traffic
talking
is
about
an
it
issue
today.
for you.
I'm driving from Real Sports up here. I don't know why they decide to do work.
Yeah, the Leafs are playing tonight. The Jays are
Right
at home.
right by
Scepter's playing.
right
There's a
by
lot
the
going
rink.
on.
They're digging it up. I'm like, this is going to be a mess.
It could take me
My
forever
favorite
to get
thing
down
about the
there.
Gardner is the other day I left before to come in here, and I was watching CP24, and they're like, they're a year and a half ahead of schedule on the Gardner. I drove on the Gardner. There was one guy with a shovel and one guy getting in a porta potty. That was it. That was all that was working on the Gardner.
Yeah.
Like there's two guys
helping.
But if you go talk to people that live by Eglinton, man, that's
Yeah.
that's probably accurate. At least they got someone working on it.
So it'd be
Like the
faster-
LRT's been a decade, dude.
It'd be faster for you to go right to Scarborough Town.
Yeah.
Take the train to Young and take the subway. It'd probably take you 45 minutes.
I know. I'm worried about when I'm going to
You're
walk
going to
in
make
the
it for the
building
thir
tonight.
period, and I can't wait for your analysis about what happened the first
Oh,
and
it'll
second.
be a full breakdown.
You'll be watching it on your phone the whole
I'll be
time.
listening on the way down.
Yeah.
And possibly watching when I get there.
Yeah.
We'll see. I'll bring the heat. Don't you worry about me.
That I'm not worried
You
about.
guys will be on the panel tonight.
Ford, you'll be Ford in the car or whatever. Wasn't he reading
Yeah,
the book?
Rob Ford. He was reading emails on the Gardner. He's like, oh, that's an interesting take. And someone's like, that's Rob Ford driving around the city.
He's like, I got a picture of you.
Yeah, he's like, oh, yeah, I guess that's
exactly.
probably
He's always
interesting.
working
Yeah,
with people.
listen, he was a man of the people,
Yeah.
Robbie Ford. There's no disputing that.
Yeah.
All right, where does your head go first here, Johnny? Do you lean the intensity needed for the Leafs tonight? I mean, it goes without saying, Ottawa.
Yeah.
They've got to. If they don't show up tonight, it's like, what are you doing? I mean, you're down 3-1 in the series.
It would be hard pressed for me to understand if either team is not left the game saying like they weren't fully invested in everything they had.
Right.
They may not execute, might not work, but they're giving her. My mind goes to the Leafs' history. I mean, that's the first thing that goes. They're in a great spot, and it's so strange because of their history. Like, is anyone talking to Carolina like, ooh, well, you've lost a game. How are you feeling only being up 3-1? Is anyone talking to Washington? Well, you're only up 3-1. No, they're delighted. They're up 3-1.
Right, you're in the driver's.
Like you're
Right.
you're right where you want to be, and yet because of what Toronto has done, and it's shocking, really. I mean, I look at that. 12 losses and 1 win in 13 potential winning situations. When the fact is, what's crazy about when you need to wrap your head around this number is that the team played well enough and was good enough to have a clinching game. They weren't playing teams that were way better than them. They were playing against teams that they were as good of or better than up to that point. So that's where my mind goes. Like, what can they do? And, I don't know if I have to hear you say it again. You said it so many times for so many years. In this moment, have one of these guys have a game that they're capable of and be like, yeah, I got 2 and 2. Like McDavid, like Draisaitl, like
We were just
McKinnon.
talking about those two guys, Johnny. It seems like all series, like in every game when the Oilers need something, those two guys provide it.
Yeah.
Whether that's fair or unfair or a disadvantage to the Oilers, those guys just get it done, man. That Draisaitl, you talk about him every year. He's an animal.
He's the most clutch playoff performer in the game.
Yeah, it's like he literally scores every game.
Every single game.
Well, against LA, he does. He's like 19 goals in 22 games or something.
Yeah, he's got a 19.
Like, he'll score tonight. It's not even. There's no point
for
even
sure.
predicting it.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm
and
thinking.
it is about the
do
team
they
game,
do that?
guys.
Like
Yeah.
one of those guys, can they have that moment? They've had so
Is there
many
one in
chances.
particular that, like, why isn't it Austin? This is what
So for me-
I've talked about a lot over the. Go ahead, but
If you say, I think the most likely guy to do it,
Willie.
Willie.
Yes.
No, Willie.
Yes.
Willie.
I agree with you.
You look at his numbers in these kind of games, in these situations. For whatever reason, he's able to sort of let his physical skills come to the forefront. And I thought he actually played pretty well in Game 4. After he's been good in the series, but he hasn't been dominant. I thought he was pretty good in Game 4. And I just this is the kind of game, 2 days off, he's rested. If one guy's going to go out there and run it around and really snap it around, I would say Willie.
The only reason I said Mitch is because if he uses that Four Nations, it's hey, I got a big assist on the game-winning goal in the Four Nations. That tournament, there were games where I didn't think he was very noticeable, but then all of a sudden he's there. He scores in overtime. Yes, it was 3-on-3, different scenario. But, I could see him doing something, but you come back to it. Why not 34?
It should be 34 first, right?
Every
in
time.
the pecking order.
If you want to have the title as one of the best players in the world, a top 5 player in the world, they usually get it done. Johnny, do you think there's any assistance like a new coach could provide these guys to feel any different about the scenario? Is there anything he could say to relax them or to make it more? I don't know. Or is it just this is your gig and you're big time players for a reason and you got to go out there and do it?
I mean, I don't know about you guys. Coaches had a slight impact on how I felt about going out there, but not a lot. A big rah-rah speech, I'm it's still on me. It's the coach not getting me fired up to play well or not fired up to play poorly. It's always on the player. The one thing I will say is that Craig Berube, as intimidating as a person he is remarkably calm. Yeah. And so he's not going to up sort of the blood pressure of anyone during the day, at practice, at the video session. There is a calmness to him. And I suppose if you're going to say he's done it before, he's won before, if you're willing to believe a little bit more what he says as opposed to what maybe Sheldon Keefe said, who hasn't won in the Stanley Cup playoffs like Craig Berube has, maybe. But again, I just give it to the players. You could put Newt Rockne in there. You could put Scotty Bowman. You could put whoever. Put Bryan Hayes. I don't think it's going to make a big difference one way. It shouldn't make a big difference.
I'd start yelling at Stolarz before the game.
Say, get ready, Joseph Woll.
If you don't play well, you're out.
You'd be Mike Keenan. You would pull the guy after the first goal and then put him back in.
Keenan
got a cup.
He did. But
He's got a ring.
Keenan would pull Fierzy. Remember that one year Fierzy played 79 games. Mm-hmm. He got pulled 12 times that year. People forget. Keenan would I didn't like his warm up, pull him after the first shot. It would be 0-0. He'd pull him.
I love that mentality.
It was, but I think what he did.
I love that mentality.
I think what he did that
wasn't
year,
ready to rock.
I don't like.
He wanted Fierzy to have the record for games played in, but he was going to plan to play the other guy, but start Fierzy and pull him right away.
It's like a quarterback going out for one snap and then leaving.
That was,
who was that? Somebody in basketball
Josh
player.
Allen did it recently.
Basketball player went in, fouled the guy after 3 seconds to keep his consecutive games played.
Mikal Bridges. Bridges.
I did that last Carolina game against Ottawa. Brent Burns has the Ironman streak. He played 14 seconds.
Yeah.
And then they just
Which is kind of
the bench.
Phil.
I mean, it's a little bit
Phil
disingenuous.
played a game in Toronto, flew home to have a kid.
Yeah, that's
But he
right.
played a shift, jumped on the private bird, went home, and came back 2 days later to keep the streak going.
That's
get him on the ice and get him out.
Pretty impressive streak.
You'd appreciate that as a player.
Right.
Well, exactly. Listen, I'm just saying, and maybe I'm wrong on this. Did Gordie Howe play one shift and leave ever? I feel like Gordie probably played 20 minutes every night. Even
probably.
when he was into his 50s.
And elbowed somebody
53,
in the head.
he had to go,
He was playing,
it's
man.
an 8-5-3-5.
Yeah, he was playing.
No, I think I think the goalie is important tonight, but I think it's more of what you said. Yeah. I think it's the star players that if the team plays solid like they did, give limiting chances, smothering Ottawa, then Stolarz doesn't have to factor in and steal the game.
Feels like Ullmark is more of the story in terms of the goaltenders tonight.
Yes.
Ullmark has got to play well. Right. Needless 100%. To say, I mean, if he lets in a leaky one or a couple leaky ones, I think scoring first is massive tonight. The Leafs have played very comfortable with the lead.
Yeah, I'm curious about especially you guys. Because you guys really ride the roller coaster. What would feel better tomorrow? Leafs win comfortably 5-2 in control, spread it around, everyone kind of gets a piece, kind of like game one. Mm-hmm. Or nail biter, hard fought, Leafs win, and one of the big boys has an end-to-end rush to win it 3-2 with 30 seconds.
That's your answer right there.
I'm going to say the latter because I think it would be better preparation for whoever you get next, right? For one guy to step up, It's a stupid answer, I know.
It's a great hypothetical, though.
Yeah, like I would, because if there's another nail biter down the stretch, I want somebody to at least feel good about themselves that board that Joe puts up is going to be starting to be lit on fire, and it's not the case anymore. So somebody to step up, that's what I want.
Not the fact that this team is different because they're a different team.
Yeah.
Not because they got a great player, but like the fact that, I'd love to see them all-line score, Stollers be good, power play be solid, 5-2, never break a sweat.
Right.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. It's not a bad option.
That's the more professional look.
But that's what I'm saying. I think people now, though, given the history and given the lack of success in these moments for the big guys, I think somehow people might prefer the big guy coming through.
Listen, it's a side story that takes up a lot of oxygen, but it should.
Until you solve it.
Exactly. I mean, let's call it what it is. Like Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, they have to prove they're playoff performers.
Right.
They're not until they actually prove it. They've had ample opportunity. It's not like they've only been in the playoffs twice.
No,
it's
and
their ninth year in the playoffs.
But they've gotten through. Keep in mind, they've gotten through to that second round. And we haven't talked about it because they're not there yet. So, let's not put the cart before the horse. But the team that's waiting for you on the other side, that's going to be a hell of a challenge, regardless of who it is. That's where you're going to need to continue to build on your game, build on your confidence, build on everything. Knock on wood for health. All of the things that come with having success. You just got to. That's why I said, and I wanted to ask him, would you shorten the bench tonight if you had to?
When's the next game? 2 days?
Thursday,
Saturday.
Yeah.
If they lose.
If they lose.
No, I shorten the hell out of it if it's close in the third period. I play it normal. I don't shorten it early.
Right.
But if it gets to the third period and it's tied,
right,
then 25 minutes.
I think you try to just find shifts instead of shortening the bench. If you get a fourth line caught out with an icing, you toss them out there.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Different opportunities.
I'm not going to say Lawton never plays or Domi never plays.
Right.
Not that kind of shortening, but more. The guys probably, if they play normally, the top guys would be 22, 21 in the playoff game. And if you got to push that to 25 like they did last game.
No, I went to overtime.
Yeah. I would do that tonight if I had to. I would slide him in. Maybe it's a shift where Yarncroke doesn't go, and hey, Mitch, go play on the fourth line.
Or wouldn't you expect the players to want that?
Of course.
That's kind of what you're
Everybody
hoping.
always wants that.
Yes, put me on the ice.
And you don't ever think that your game is deteriorating because you play too much. You don't even really feel it. You're like, no, I feel good. I'm playing a lot. It's not really until maybe you look after the fact or maybe the next day you're like, maybe I was a little tired there and I wasn't as good as I should have been. But I would 100% shorten it. Not quite like LA.
Yeah.
LA from the puck drop played 9 forwards and 4.5 defensemen.
Yeah.
This is a D-man they're trying to hide.
But Brant Clark was the fifth guy and a D-man named Moravare.
Yeah.
You've never heard of Moravare?
Jacob Moravare.
Moravare?
That's why we let the play-by-play guy go. You say his name.
Go ahead.
Morevare or whatever.
Moravare or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
He
got
played 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Which team benefits more from the refs putting the whistle away tonight? No penalties, puts the whistle away.
Ottawa.
Who would want that more?
Ottawa.
Definitely?
Definitely. Look at the power play. I know they didn't score last game.
Yeah, special teams. I thought that was a big part of last game that Ottawa started feeling good about it.
And
well, you're right. I just think you're playing with fire. We saw what happened in Game 1. They took way too many penalties that cost them the power play. 3 for 6 that night, and they were 0 for 3 on the power play. I feel, and it comes back to 5-on-5, regardless of the lack of shots, they feel like they've played pretty well. Special teams have been a big difference. And really, the special team battle, Ottawa won it last game. They won the game. So I would say if the refs say you guys sort it out, Ottawa would probably want that.
Okay.
I don't know how you.
I know, 100% agree. Although I think Ottawa scored a power play goal.
They did.
In 3 straight games.
And a shorty the other
But
night.
in a few games in a row, Ottawa scored a power play goal.
Yeah.
So it's not like they've been really struggling either. But no, I think for all the obvious reasons, how good the power play has been, but also how the top guys thrive on good touches on the power play, even when they don't score. They get some handles, they get a couple shots, they get to feel it a little bit. I think Ottawa would take a 5-on-5 60-minute game all the way. And the longer you play 5-on-5, the more likely it is that nothing happens. And the longer nothing happens, the more stress and strain goes to Toronto versus Ottawa.
Which is amazing because the Leafs are up 3-1 in the series. Yeah,
but
their history is what it is,
Yeah.
and they're supposed to close, and you don't want to go back to Ottawa. So it naturally, I understand why it's there.
But that's fair on any team that's up 3-1. Like Carolina's got, I would think Carolina wants to finish Jersey off.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean?
But I'm saying if it's 2-2 in the third period, Carolina, Jersey versus Toronto, Ottawa, Toronto is feeling way more stressed than Carolina in that moment. Or maybe the general atmosphere will be one of tension versus one of opportunity.
I often wonder, though, we are on the outside of that dressing room and on the bench, and we're not on the bench and all that. We, in the media, the fan base feels that stress. Like, you've seen the players, been
And
on
plus,
the
how
bench
many-
and that. Like, those guys are pretty,
Yeah.
they're a lot different than we think they
Yeah.
are. That's
Yeah,
the
they're
one
not
Why they're
biting their
professional
nails
athletes.
thinking,
Yeah.
oh no,
They
oh
just
no.
play. Like,
Plus, it's a good point. Like, how many important players are new?
Right.
With Ekman Larson and Tanev and Stolars
Carlo.
and Carlo and
They're hoping that helps.
But
these
it-
guys have no scar tissue with Toronto.
Right.
Well, and that's the reality is, like, if the Leafs lose tonight, you might as well send the 5 players over there, the core 4 and Morgan Riley, and say, you're doing your own press conference in an auditorium because there's a million people here to talk to you 5.
guys.
The other team can go over here and have a reasonable, you're still up 3-2 in the series, presser. I mean, that's the truth.
I get
Not
it.
far from it.
Those 5 guys are separated. They're the ones that have been here. Everyone else in the organization is turned over.
And it's one simple question. If it doesn't go well, why does this keep happening?
One for
Explain yourself.
one for 14 if they don't win tonight. 1 for 14.
But again,
That's
context of
hard to
like,
stomach.
what if it's another overtime goal and just it's a close game? You're like, okay. Like at the start of the series, I don't know what you called. Did you call
I
Leafs
called
in
Toronto
6?
in 6.
Okay, so if it goes 6,
Still
like-
right there for you.
Right. What did you? I don't know what you called. We
Yeah,
didn't
that
actually
would have
didn't
been
do it.
reasonable.
But I think a
That's-
lot
I
of
thought
people were
Toronto
like
would win,
Leafs
but-
in 6, Leafs in 7. You know, that's.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you're allowed to give them another
Understand.
gift.
I'm
say,
trying
let's
to
bring
give
that to
context
6.
to it. If it just
With
doesn't
3
go-
overtime games in a
You're
row.
McElroy's caddy going back for a playoff hole.
Right.
Right, like
You know,
you
on
take
Monday
it-
you would have taken this.
Right, like you just the point being is like Ottawa's going to play hard tonight. I don't know what's going to happen, but I think they want to keep it close. They're going to try and battle and get it back. In their minds, they're going.
So
You got to win one on the road because we want to get it back to Ottawa.
we've talked about who we're looking at in Toronto, like who's got to step up. Who is it? Who is that in Ottawa?
Outside of Allmark or just Allmark?
Yeah, push the
goalie
goaltender
side, yeah.
out of like the goaltender you got to
Stützle,
have.
To me,
I think Stützle is an obvious one. I think like Brady's pretty impactful though. Like you notice him out there, like he's a
Well, he's so physical, and
he's-
you know where
he's
he's
a handful,
going.
right?
He's
Like,
going to areas that make
think-
noise.
I think Batherson.
I think if Pinto has a good game, because Pinto's a swing guy, because he makes life tough on the other team's good players.
that's fair.
Right? So if Pinto has a very good game, he doesn't need to score. But if he makes Austin Matthews less than great, or dominates Tavares' possession and chances, and maybe gets a goal, like to me, he's a swing guy where it could go really well when he has
Right.
a good game. Versus if he loses that battle, it's a good chance they lose the game.
I would say Batherson because he's been littered all over these games,
Yeah.
good and bad. Like I thought he was their best Senator game 1. Like he looked really good. He looked comfortable. Game 2, the turnover the turnover and the soft play on
Fly by,
Domi.
yeah.
Last game, he's high sticking
Yeah, Tanev.
Tanev, like almost. I mean, Tanev's not going to lose any more teeth. I don't know.
I don't know where that blood came from.
Well,
He's
people
got
were
no
like,
jibs or anything.
Chin.
yeah, but people were like,
That's
he
got a
got
leather
hit in the
face.
nose, but he was bleeding out of his mouth. He's like, he may have bit his lip because he's got 3 teeth in there. Who
Yeah.
knows? But he came out with a handful of blood.
Cletus.
People
Papa
thought
said
he was
real
the Cuban assassin from Stampede Wrestling.
I love it.
If you knew, if Tavares knew there was a power play going on, apparently he didn't even know, because they took him off, quiet room. He looked
Right.
like his head was. Can you imagine how quick you would try to buzz through the
Yeah.
protocol if you knew you had a 4-minute power play to win a series in a sweep, and you're
Oh.
a
I said it
staple
after
power
the
play
game,
guy?
like
And I'm glad
the
they
break.
did it. I'm 100% glad they
You
did it.
got to be consistent with it if you're going to
It's
do
for the best of the athletes. Protect us from ourselves, because every single one of us in this table be like, check me in 10 minutes or check me in 4 minutes. Just
Yeah.
let me play the power play.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out after that. But if you knew it was right there on your stick, you'd be like, yeah, I'm passed.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
go.
Put me down for
Yeah.
C on all of these.
It's Saturday. I'm going.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Multiple choice.
Yeah.
I'll take A across the board.
do you remember those concussions? Like, I'm sure it's changed. But I
All
remember
the words
having
that
to
start with the letter D.
I remember.
Go.
and
30 seconds.
I remember on the clear one, without a concussion, having stage fright, and it was like all the letters you could think of was C. I was like saying swear
I
words.
can imagine what you
immediately the
said.
bad words.
And there was a lady, and I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And it was like 4 words. I could have got the biggest concussion and hammered off 10 words.
Right.
But in my baseline, I had like 4 words because I had stage fright.
Your boy Tyson Nash would acknowledge he intentionally fumbled those tests. So if he ever got one during a game, he would probably be around the same level.
Right.
Yeah.
Intentionally,
Like you're
too
not
poorly.
you're an idiot, but you're not
you're a
concussed.
certified idiot here.
Like I literally, no joke. She was like F, and I go fart, fudge, like F word,
Yeah.
swear, like
Like, all right, get
it
him back
was,
out
like,
there.
ridiculous.
Put your helmet on.
Yeah.
You're good, kid.
Yeah.
Keep playing.
Johnny, let me ask you, if you were a coach and you could call an organization, a lot of openings right now,
Okay.
who would be the first call you made? If that's the way it works.
Let me run through the vacancies. You're talking open jobs right now?
Open jobs.
Well, Vancouver,
Yeah,
because Rick Tocchet just set them out. Bruins, Rangers, Flyers, Blackhawks, Ducks, Kraken, Penguins.
So if I got a 2-part answer. Sorry. If I'm a veteran guy, if I'm Mike Sullivan, I want the Rangers or probably the Bruins. Kind of like a little, like the Rangers are maybe closest to being competitive in the moment. I don't know if they're going to win, but they'll be good, and maybe you can make them be good. Boston, I think, is better than they showed this year. If you're a younger guy, I would be attracted to Anaheim.
Yeah.
I love that life, and I love that team. And
Where's Vancouver on the list?
They're sort of murky middle right now for me. And
Hayes has them bottom.
I
murky
wouldn't
middle,
want
which is
anything
right.
to
Like
do with
they're
that
not
team.
ascending that market, and they don't love paying their coaches a lot. I think that's a fact of Rick Tocchet not being there. They don't want to pay the top dollar. So if you're a coach who's not going to command a top dollar, maybe doesn't have that resume, they'd be a good option.
So what would you guess? Rick Tocchet would say, look, I'm the coach of the year. If you want me back here, it's going to be what?
It's going to be $5 million.
$5
yeah.
million bucks.
Yeah. And they say we don't pay our coaches more than $3 million.
Now, they're not alone. There's other teams that, like Boston, famously the same thing. Like, I'm not paying. I'm not going to do it. Like,
Well, you better snap out of that, because if you want the guy that you want and a quality coach, that's what they
look
cost.
at Jim Montgomery. Like, he wins Coach of the Year. And
They have no problem giving a guy $6 million that scores 4 goals on the third line. Pay the coach.
No, I get it, but they have this mantra in certain organizations. It's interesting talking to coaches because a lot of them now will share salaries. Like they'll share what they're making so that they can use it as ammunition. And for years, Roddy Brindamore was like, when organizations would bring up Rod Brindamore to a prospective coach, they're like, don't even talk to me about that guy. That guy is getting jammed, and he's given the hometown discount. Talk to me about people like that are in, because Brindamore is a hell of a coach, and I believe he's getting paid now. I think
Not as much. He's still.
I don't know what the number
And
is.
he, like the good guy that he is, he like said, okay, I'll take less, but you pay my assistants more, you pay the trainers more, you
Yeah.
pay the equipment guys more, all that. So, I mean, doesn't it make sense though? Tocchet goes to Philly. Mike Sullivan goes to
New York.
New York, or his son-in-law plays for Boston. Charlie McAvoy's his son-in-law. He's married
That
to
would
his
be
daughter.
weird, man.
I would
It would be weird,
not
but
want that
but,
if I was
but
McAvoy.
Well, yeah, I understand what you're saying, but McAvoy's also a superstar. It makes it more manageable.
Right.
If you're Mason Lohrei,
Yeah.
son-in-law,
True.
Why is he on the power play?
It's no preferential treatment.
He's
That's
always
right.
going to get the best treatment because he
Yes.
deserves it.
True.
But Rangers or Boston, and then David Carl apparently shot down Chicago
That's a tough look.
That's a bad look.
Yeah.
because they were all in on him. Now I don't know if they're going to pay him. You'd have to pay him a lot to get him out of school, out of Denver University, but.
College coach.
But they make bank.
And I understand that, but
Dude, I
the
like
National
him, though.
Hockey
I just
League.
watched him from afar at the World Juniors. I think
He's
I like
also
him.
Yeah.
34 or 5.
Yeah,
He's
he
so
won.
No,
young.
I'm not.
He's exactly what
it's
you
not
want.
about him. I'm talking about Chicago.
I know.
Like if you can't make
With
a
all the
pitch,
money you have.
Regional 6, that market, you got
You would think a
the guard,
guy
you
in
got
college
money.
would be drooling over
That's
an
what I'm
offer from
saying.
an NHL
How often
team.
does a college coach? It's like what's his name did that to the Lakers. What's his name down at UConn, and he was like, nah, I could.
Bobby Hurley. Danny Hurley.
Yeah, Danny Hurley
Yeah.
had the option. And it's like you're going to stay in college over the Lakers.
That guy's a Looney Tune, man.
Yeah, that was
That act would not play in professional basketball.
no.
Danny Hurley's.
No, and maybe he knew that.
Yeah.
I'm going to get there, and LeBron's going to look at me and
Yeah.
say, "That's not
That's
how
enough
things
of you.
work here."
Yeah.
Well, what's the guy who had the bar play? What was his name? In football.
Urban Meyer.
Urban Meyer.
Yeah, Urban. That was a tough transition for Urban.
When you get college coaches that turn pro, he really enjoyed
Former
it.
Bowling Green coach.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
churn him out.
Yeah.
That's where he first came to fame.
Did you ever come across
No,
Urban
he was
Meyer?
after me. He went BG to Utah to Miami, Ohio State, whatever.
Yeah, he would have had some.
So Hayes, you don't like Vancouver?
I wouldn't want that job.
Would you take Seattle over Vancouver?
Not necessarily
Yeah.
either, man. I mean, honestly, I don't. I got to be honest. I wouldn't want Pittsburgh.
Put it this way:
There's a lot. These jobs, they're open for a reason, and
But
I
they-
don't love them.
but they are. I mean, Seattle's in a rebuild, and they do have a couple
Rebuild.
good.
They're 4 years old.
I know, but a good.
Like it's
They got to
wild.
cycle back.
Sorry, rebuild is the wrong word. They're in a build.
they're still
building.
They're building.
Right, they made the
They
playoffs
have permit issues.
on the second year, which it probably
Bureaucracy
They're
out
stuck
there.
in committee of adjustments.
Yeah, there's
That
a lot
was
of
an-
bureaucracy.
That
out
was an
there.
outlier, them making the playoffs.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they're still in a build. But I think they're, Anaheim, like there is some attractive teams. It depends on what you are and what you want as a coach.
Sure.
That's the way
I know we got to go. Round the horn. They win tonight?
Leafs?
Yeah. Before I leave, I need to hear it.
Yes, I think they're going to win tonight. I will go on the record.
Goddamn right they're going to win tonight.
I-
I don't want to
I
have
thought
to.
they
If
were
I
gonna-
have to come in here, the beard's off,
You're going to get rid of the beard during the playoffs in the first round?
dude.
Can't do that.
You remember
Looks
the
like a
saying? You
skinny
remember the
John
quote?
Daly.
You remember the quote?
You look like John Daly.
Idiot.
That's the
Quote.
quote.
Nothing.
If nothing
changed.
changes, nothing changes.
changes.
That's right. John Daly once said that.
I can't believe you said
At a
that.
Hooters
man. You
in
look like
Augusta.
John Daly. What
I
kind
didn't
of
say
famous
it.
quote is that?
Noodles said that.
I
He drove his
said
RV to Hooters and said, hey.
Yeah.
Thin.
Man, he sets up shop at Hooters down there in Augusta.
Look at this guy.
There's O.
That's on Saturday night if it goes to Game 7.
That'll be Saturday night game 7. Can you imagine the post game? If I don't even want to
don't
get
even
there,
go
you
there.
don't want to throw that
Don't
into the
even go
universe,
there.
man.
No.
All right, boys. Well, we'll catch you guys tonight.
Yeah.
On the panel.
Good
It'll
luck
be a good
getting
one.
there.
The Hot Zone tonight. The Hot Zone will
I
be
love
cooking
the
on
Hot
YouTube,
Zone,
man.
I love it.
You guys are doing great work. Yeah, wish me luck.
Yeah,
I think
good
I'll be down there 6 minutes into the first.
No.
That's my guess.
No way, not
it's a
with
late. It's a late puck drop. It'll be 7:15ish puck
No,
drop.
7:20.
Seven-
They don't drop the puck till
You
7.
did not-
7:08 first game. 7:08 first game.
You did not see the construction that I saw.
I know the construction. I'm aware of the
Like
construction.
Harbor 60 was basically closed off. It
Yeah,
was
that's
one
just-
lane, and there were some angry Lieutenant Dans down.
Oh, I'll be
Like, it
laying
was-
on the horn southbound on
were
the
pissed.
DVP.
Like it was not good.
Watch yourself, JP.
Yeah.
All right, boys. Good seeing you guys. We got Emily Kaplan coming up. Mark Masters from the rink tonight. The Jays are back home in action tonight. Confirm or deny will continue as well. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, Emily Kaplan coming up here in a moment of ESPN. She was in Florida last night, and now she's in Toronto. ESPN's going all over the place.
Making their way around. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got a 3-1 series lead for the Panthers, a 3-1 series lead for the Maple Leafs, 3-1 series lead for the Washington Capitals, 3-1 series lead for the Carolina Hurricanes.
Is Montreal playing tonight too? Am I
They play
missing that?
tomorrow.
Okay. Yeah.
So tonight's Toronto, Edmonton. Tomorrow, then it's Montreal, Winnipeg.
Okay.
From a Canadian
Yeah.
standpoint,
Staggered. Yeah.
which I like. I like the idea of
Yes.
having an early and a late game. The
Content.
Canadian teams,
Yeah.
great.
I agree.
But yeah, Emily was there. We'll get to her commentary in just a moment. But this is what John Cooper, the head coach of the Lightning, had to say about all these hits, all these questionable hits, the potential suspensions, and how he is kind of responding to it all.
Coop, what'd you think of the hit on Hagel there? And any surprise, at least how the team responded after the hit, getting 2 goals quickly there?
Yeah, it's getting tiresome answering questions about a hit every single game. So I'll ask you. You asked me the question. Why are you asking me the question? Do you have anything to say about it?
Nobody cares about it.
Oh, well, but, if anybody in here has something, stand up and let me know. All right, let's move on.
Yeah, I appreciate that greatly because you have to advocate for your guys.
Right.
But I think what he's saying is we can't just. It's the playoffs.
Yeah, we just
and
can't
they
keep-
lost.
And you can't keep talking about
every
hit after
single
hit after
game. Well,
hit.
what about this hit? What about that? And that's what I was yelling about
Yeah.
an hour ago.
No.
It's like, well, what about the goals? What about the fact that you lost the game? What about
Right.
all these different storylines? And I understand why it's compelling. I get it, and I get it goes viral, and these are bad hits and bad plays. but it's every single game. All right, here she is. Emily was in the house last night. She's in the house tonight. Leafs Sens, Game 5 down at Scotiabank. Here's Emily Kaplan of ESPN. Emily, what did you make of John Cooper's approach to being asked about bad hits again for the fourth straight game?
Well, firstly, thank you guys for having me. I'm literally down at Scotiabank. I'm calling you guys from the basement here, so hopefully the connection's good.
Perfect.
Look, covering this series and covering both of these teams over the years, it's a real rivalry. Like, these guys hate each other, and there's obviously so much familiarity of playing each other so much, including in the playoffs. And I think that there's also gamesmanship between these two head coaches. We know they're both brilliant orators. Like, they know what they're doing in terms of public messaging. And John Cooper's pissed, right? Like, Brandon Hagel is such an important player to them. He's an impact player. He's a guy that John Cooper wanted to bring to Four Nations for Canada. He was suspended. He was really upset by getting suspended. They agreed, that's whatever. He served his punishment. But then to have him go down like that and not have it punished, A, on the ice, and B, knowing that the Department of Player Safety is meeting today to announce whatever the, supplemental discipline will be, and I expect us to hear from that shortly. Like, this is him just kind of, making sure that he gets his narrative out there, and I give him a ton of credit, and this is why guys like to play for coaches like this, because he stands up for them.
So, Emily, you're around a lot of series, you're around a lot of games. Like, how nasty is this series? Like, I mean, I know there's a history. They play each other, it seems like, every year in the first round. It's almost carried over, the hatred. Every time they play each other, it's every whistle, it's scrum. Every whistle, it's punch in the face. And the hockey's been great, but is it being overshadowed by this rivalry? Like, is there enough light being shined on it because there's other great storylines throughout the league?
That's a great question, and I don't know if enough light is being shined, too much light is being shined, but I will say of the series that I've covered so far, this is probably the nastiest, and I just think that the Florida Panthers built a team of guys that like to get their hands dirty. Like, they joke that they're a pack of rats, but, like, they really are. You've got Matthew Tkachuk, who I think is a master at just towing that line of the dark arts and really getting under guys' skin, both physically and with the chirps that he has on the ice. We know Sam Bennett can be that type of player. Then you add Brad Marchand into the mix, and then all of a sudden you look down the roster, you're like, wait, there's so many other guys that can do these things. If you're the Tampa Bay Lightning, you get annoyed when you see that again and again, and especially in a playoff series, and they claw back. So I would say out of all the series that I've covered so far, the hatred in this one is very real, is rooted in history, and I think it was telling that when I interviewed Seth Jones on the bench last night, I mean, he's only been a part of this for a couple months, couple weeks now, and he's like, I feel like I've been part of it 4 or 5 years. Like, I hate the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yeah.
And, that's just the way it goes.
That's the way it should be, absolutely. With Emily Kaplan of ESPN down at Scotiabank ahead of Game 5 tonight. It's interesting what's going on in the East. Like 3-1 Panthers, 3-1 Leafs, 3-1 Carolina, 3-1 Washington. I don't know what you were anticipating, but does that surprise you at all? And do you feel like all those teams that are in the lead now is just a formality? We're going to see the 4 of them into the second round.
I never view anything as a formality when it comes to the Stanley Cup playoffs. I feel like anytime you're ready to write off a team, it's when they come and surprise you. Out of all of these series, I think that the Carolina Hurricanes probably have the strongest hold on the New Jersey Devils just because of how banged up the Devils are, now without Jack and Luke Hughes and Brendan Dillon, it's a lot, and it's added up, and they perform valiantly, but like at some point you just lose some manpower. I would say this about the game I'm covering tonight: the Senators remind me a lot of the mentality of the Montreal Canadiens, where they feel like they've been playing playoff hockey for a couple weeks now. And so it's a young team, but they know what it takes to play with that urgency. And neither of these teams are here for a participation trophy. Like, they believe in themselves, and they've got confidence that they can do it. And so I'm expecting them not to be a walkover tonight. In fact, it very well could go the Senators' way, especially, with all the pressure on the Leafs in their own building, not having to deal with all the questions again and again of like, oh, okay, can they not close out a series? So I don't know what to expect, and I'm expecting really good hockey. I think it's probably the only thing I feel certain about.
Where do you fall with goaltenders? Because we always argue on this show. I mean, Hayes, he gives them a lot of heck, and O's in the middle, and I'm obviously a goalie hugger. But when it comes to playoffs, goaltending is front and center. If you have it, you don't complain about it. If you don't have it, obviously it is a storyline, and it has been throughout the league. You've got Anthony Stolarz, who doesn't have a lot of deep history in the playoffs, and Linus Ullmark has been a bit of a lightning rod with his playoff performances. You've got the Toronto game. Vasilevsky, was taking some heat earlier on the show because he hasn't been great in
Stats aren't great.
Stats aren't great. Hellebuck has not performed well in his last couple games. Do you make that the league should just be called goaltender and you either have it or you don't?
Yeah, and it's funny because it's almost like, do you have it in that moment? And it's really just about peaking at the right time, because going into the playoffs, I'm like, the goalie I'd feel best about is Andrei Vasilevsky. Look how he's played the last few weeks, and I don't think that any, deficit in that series is his fault, but he definitely hasn't looked like the Andrei Vasilevsky we've seen in the past that can completely steal games. So I think it's just about who can get hot for a period of time and who has the depth, because like the Carolina Hurricanes are dealing with it right now. Your goalie at some point is either going to need a rest or get injured, and you trust your backup. So I'm curious to see what Kochetkov can do.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, and that's a completely different element. The guys who get hurt, and you're like, what are we supposed to do now?
Well, Samuel Montembeault,
yes,
gets hurt. Logan Thompson gets carried off and plays the other night, wins and looked very sharp. It's Connor Hellebuck, like I say, is in one. Darcy Kemper, who's a Vezina finalist. Like, people are talking about Stuart Skinner and Calvin Pickard. But if you look at Kemper's given up goals.
A lot of goals.
Like, Edmonton's gotten to him as far as scoring. We'll see what happens tonight. But you're right. I think it's more in the moment. What have you done for me lately? Because, Anthony Stolarz, I think, is a fantastic season. Fantastic first 3 games. A little bit of a step back last game. And all of a sudden, people are whispering, wow, maybe Joseph Woll questions were coming up today. And Craig Berube looked at the people that were asking him like he had 3 eyes.
He's just getting used to Toronto media still.
Yes. This is when it really gets cooking, Emily. You know that. You're in town. You'll see it tonight. What do you make with Emily Kaplan of ESPN? Rick Tocchet leaving Vancouver. How do you connect that to Quinn Hughes and his future?
I wouldn't put it as closely to Quinn Hughes, even though that's obviously going to be a big question mark and an even bigger one going forward. More so just in the landscape right now, where there's 7 other openings, and saying, okay, if I don't feel super confident where I am and maybe I have questions about ownership or the way things are going or the direction or the facilities or whatever it may be, well, there's no better time to be a coveted free agent than now, because so many teams are thirsty. I've got a lot of experience. I'm an attractive candidate. Let me see what else is out there. And maybe there's been some back channeling, the last couple of weeks, tampering happens in all different areas where he knows that there could be a place that he would feel comfortable going. So I think it was more so of just the landscape around the league, which is probably why the timing was right. But I do feel for the people in Vancouver and specifically that team, because I know they loved Rick Tocchet and I know Quinn Hughes loves him. And, Quinn Hughes is American and his 2 brothers are playing in America. And maybe, the thoughts go into his head of like, is that something I want one day? I don't know that to be true. I know that he's very dedicated to the Canucks. He really takes pride in being a captain. But it's definitely a shockwave to that organization that had a really tough year. That this was not a year that they wanted, and this is not going to be a summer that they wanted either.
No, that is 100% true. And we'll see what Jim Rutherford, who's speaking to the media in about 20 minutes, has to say about this out in Vancouver. Game 5 tonight. Sens Leafs on ESPN. Emily, enjoy the game, and we'll chat again soon. Thank you for doing this.
I appreciate you guys. Have a great rest of your show.
You got it. Emily Kaplan, live from Scotiabank Arena.
Didn't sound
ahead of the game tonight.
Loud. She found a quiet spot down there.
Yeah, well, it's still early, right? Because sometimes we'll have people, we're going to have Masters on, and if you get Mike Ross, like the PA announcer, doing tests before.
Or the anthem singer
or
warming
the anthems
up.
out there, and it's like, you're trying to ask, hey, what do you make of Stolarz tonight? And it's like...
Yeah.
Something's blaring in the background, or they've got a band playing that's going to be doing the anthem tonight.
Yeah.
Anyway, it sounded clear. And I guess I'll see Emily down there tonight. But, the Rick Tocchet news, we'll see what Jim Rutherford has to say in 20 minutes.
I think
speaking with the media.
Jim Rutherford is so refreshing because he's so honest. Like, that's why I said to you, I'm like, We'll be talking, but if there is something spicy that comes out of it, we've got to have the sound turned around immediately.
For sure.
Because he shoots from the hip. It's not like he's a 60-year-old executive. I believe he's late 70s, isn't he not?
Well, and with Lou Lamoriello no longer an exec, he is the longest standing executive in the league.
Yeah.
Like he's been working he's been in the league as a player. He's been in the league for 50 years, more than that.
More than that, yeah. So I would just be interesting to see what he says, because I don't think he's going to sugarcoat it to go, hey.
Not generally in his nature.
And there's going to be questions. going, what does this mean for Quinn? Like, what would you ask if you were in that scrum? Would you ask about Quinn Hughes?
Well, yes. So if I had unlimited questions,
okay,
let's say it was an interview and I'm going Larry King, I would begin by asking him what he thinks this means for the reputation of the organization.
That's fair.
After the disastrous season, now Tocchet decides to leave.
Right.
Like, didn't get fired. They wanted him. They made it public. They want to keep him. And he said, actually, I'm going to go somewhere else.
Right.
Rare. You don't see that very often in sports. What does this say about how you're perceived in the league? Why did Rick Tocchet give you an explanation as to why he left?
Right.
And then, yes, eventually I would get to Quinn Hughes I'm sure he's on the minds of everyone in Vancouver.
Yes.
They love him. They should. He's up for the Norris. He's one of the 5 or 6 best players in the game.
Yeah.
He's a phenom. He's an unbelievable player. He's 25 years old. He's your captain.
Yeah.
He's got 2 years left. The last time we heard from Jim Rutherford, he referenced the fact that Quinn Hughes has mentioned he wants to play with his brothers
that's what
at some
I mean.
point.
Like,
they're both in New Jersey. And it's been well reported that Quinn Hughes had an affinity for Rick Tocchet.
Right.
So, yes, like the Hughes story, albeit premature in some ways because he's got 2 years left on his deal.
Right.
There's nothing they can do anyway, and there's nothing they're going to do. They're going to let him play out at least next season. But by next year, that question is going to be incredibly prevalent.
Well, and wouldn't you say, what do you see this team looks like?
Are you competitive? Are you retooling?
What is the vision for this group come October 1st next year?
What's the mandate from ownership?
Are you competitive? Are you a playoff team? Are you a cup contender? Like, what do you feel like you could do with this time off, but having, some injuries, but then, Besser leaving, you're going to have some money there. Like, what do you envision? Like, that would be an interesting, if you had true serum, what do you?
Yeah.
But you're right. It could be, what's the mandate from ownership?
Ownership says, hey, you got to make the playoffs. Then
you got to be
answer.
all in. Right?
There's your answer, man. You're going to do whatever you can to do that, clearly.
Exactly.
Including hiring a coach who could be a short-term coach.
Right.
Right? Like some guy, and I don't know who this would
be.
Mike
Sullivan, if you could get him.
Maybe. Yeah, and I can't imagine he's, honestly, it'd be John Tortorella would kind of fit that bill. Obviously, he's not going back to Vancouver.
Right.
But some guy comes in, pokes and prods, says, I'm going to get this team to play right for a year or two. We're going to get into the playoffs. Or do you go with like a younger up-and-coming coach that you think, has a Spencer Carberry type of approach? I don't know. We'll see. Rutherford, again, is going to speak to the Vancouver media and, by extension, the NHL media in about 15 minutes. All right, Mark Masters coming up in 20. We'll continue with confirm or deny. We only got through like 2 confirm or denies because we were yelling and screaming about different things.
We had some fun with it.
Oh, we had John Daly in here earlier, and he was talking, and he threw us off.
Skinny John Daly.
Skinny John Daly. I need to make sure that I point that out. Skinny John Daly. All right, OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, Mark Masters coming up in about 15 minutes. Confirm or deny will continue as well. Jays Sox tonight. Man, they got to get that offense going, man. And like Varsho's going to return, and I saw Keegan Matheson tweeting out like some of the roster decisions, what they're doing, like who they have, how many outfielders they have, what they're going to do with different positions. They're trying to find it. They're trying to find as many bats that can get hot as quickly as they can get hot. And, you're never going to have 9 guys hot at the same time.
No, but it's nice.
Mix in 2 or 3. Give me a couple of guys who I can look at and say, this guy's going to produce for me. And we know who they're supposed to be. Right. It's supposed to be the best players.
Laddie and Bo.
And Santander and Kirk got paid. Like, he's an everyday guy. He's their everyday catcher, man. He's their guy. He's not going to play every day. But
where would Alejandro Kirk rank for catchers? Let's just say even in the American League,
I don't know.
I guess, I'm putting you on the spot.
The thing is about the catching position. You need to bat. You need to hit. If you're going to play, you got to contribute to the plate. But he's very good at framing pitches. I mean, that's
he's a very
his reputation.
good catcher. Yes.
Works very well as a battery. Works very well with his pitchers. They rely on him. I think they feel like they're very confident with him behind the plate.
Right.
He's a good defensive catcher. So that's worth a lot.
Right.
That's very valuable. But when you look at what he did a couple of years ago, when he, I believe, led the American League in OPS, certainly for catchers, he was an all-star. hit for average, hit for power, slugged, he just got on base a lot. Like everything across the board. The guy looked like
solid.
Mike Piazza in his prime.
I know.
Since then, it has been a drastic fall off.
Yes.
Like to the point where, again, last year the explanation was, he had a child, I believe, in spring training, missed a lot of spring training, personal stuff. Maybe he had a contract hanging over him. This year, they get out in front of it. They sign him during the spring. They commit to him, and his performance is dreadful. Like at the plate, it's just awful. And Jimenez has been awful recently. I mean, you can go on and on. There's no one that's standing out offensively that you feel great about right now.
That's the problem. Like there's all the time when you look at teams that are struggling, you can always ask the question, name me a player that's playing great. There's usually maybe one guy or whatever. You go, oh, that guy's having a good season. But for teams that are struggling, you're looking at them on paper saying that team should be better.
Yes.
That team should be able to do this. I don't know. Are they underachieving? Is it bad luck? Has there been,
No, I think the problem, you know what it is? The way you look at a raw, it's amazing, the human mind with sports.
Right.
If there's wins attached to a roster, you look at that roster and say, I like this roster, man.
Look good.
Yeah, like I like that guy. And when you lose, and that's where they are. They've lost 7 of 8, and all of a sudden you're like, look at this lineup. They can't, obviously they can't hit.
Yes.
You look at it and you're like, this isn't a surprise. And the run differential is terrible. Their home run differential is like second or third worst in the league. Yeah. So when you're in bad, you look at everyone and you say, I don't like any of it.
Don't like that. This guy could be better.
There are three guys at the top of the order, have to be better, can be better, will be better.
Right.
The rest of it, though, I'm not convinced will be. And that's what's concerning. Yeah. That's where you start talking 77 wins, 78 wins. And you got to be reasonable in terms of what you can expect out of those guys.
Yeah.
And listen, the Sox you're fighting with, right? Like it's early, I get it, but every game counts, man. And you're fighting with Boston. You're going to fight with Tampa. You're going to fight with the Yankees to an extent.
I agree.
All right, final hour coming up. Mark Masters, confirm or deny, will continue. We'll get to our best bets as well. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050, soon to be up on TSN 2.